And then when it comes to classic films, because
Ooh.
obviously your article is about Feud, which is this FX series that pulled back the curtain about not only the making of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but this legendary feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. Um, who were some of your classic golden age ladies of the screen that you're drawn to and everything, or some of your favorite Crawford and Davis films outside of Baby Jane?
Well, he was on the Zoom before we started, but I have a dog named Brando, named after
Yes.
Marlon Brando. I think I also realized I was gay when I saw Marlon Brando in Streetcar Named Desire and James Dean, and I was like, "What? What's happening in my body right now?" Um, and you know, Streetcar just has it all. I mean, it has the camp element that we'll discuss, and um, All About Eve, I think, is 1950. I know Mildred Pierce is 1945, the end of the war. All About Eve is about as perfect as it gets writing wise. It's just so funny. Um,
That's Luke's favorite movie.
oh, okay. I need to go into your archives and read up and listen up. And that hangs over Feud and Baby Jane, right? The legacy of serious roles, as I think they reference Margot Channing in Feud, and then the Crawford character played by Jessica Lange, she references Mildred Pierce. I think she says something right like, "I won the Oscar and I'm doing this." Um, but those are two great, great films from them, from the two of them. But
Yeah, I adore All About Eve. I've said this on the podcast before, but I think Bette Davis is one of those few people that I think the she won Oscars for, I think, even though she did great performances, I think that she won Oscars for the wrong movies. If I could
mm,
rewrite history, I would have given it to her for Margot Channing, for definitely for Of Human Bondage, which is the film that everybody thought that she would get nominated for, but even didn't get a nomination. That's when they introduced write-ins on Oscar ballots because everybody was so angry that Bette Davis was not recognized. But but Mildred Pierce is fantastic. I have my great grandmother to thank me for giving her DVD copy of that movie. And All About Eve was the first review that Christian invited me on to do uh, uh, over 2 years ago when he and I met and everything, and then I eventually kept coming back for guest appearances, and now I'm officially a co-host. So
yay! You're the
it's
Eve
fun.
Harrington.
Yes, I.
Oh boy.
Oh my. No, don't.
Damn.
Oh my goodness.
We
Yeah,
need a
Uh,
that's
mirror.
right.
We
That's
need a
right,
mirror
Colin. You're
moment.
gonna, yep, I'm the Margot. I'm the
We
Margot of the
need
group.
we need a mirror moment of you two just staring and with envy in a mirror, multiple mirrors. Yeah.
I'll do it. In a
so
heartbeat.
so when it came to Feud, did you watch it when it was premiering on television on FX?
Yes, I'm old school. I did my homework, Luke, in terms of rewatching the pilot and then the eighth episode, which is called "You Mean All This Time We Could Have Been Friends."
Mhm.
And then funny enough, with I was telling my Apple TV last night, "Whatever happened to Baby Jane?" And then AI said, "I'm sorry, we don't know what happened to Baby Jane." And then I was like, "But whatever happened to Baby Jane?" And it was like, "I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave." It was like, "We don't know what happened to Baby Jane." So then I
We
realized
don't
I'm in the
know. Leave us
wrong.
alone.
Yeah, right. Then I realized I owned it. I was hoping there were they had the trailer. I was hoping there was like a juicy featurette or interview stuff, but I couldn't, it wasn't attached to that. But in terms of Feud, yes, when it was on, I must have watched it on FX and now you can get it on Hulu because
Mhm.
they're the same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember watching it as it was airing, and I remember falling in love with it so much, and I wanted to just buy the whole thing, so I have the whole first season on my Apple library so I could go back to it.
I
And
do
then
too.
some gracious soul put it up on Hulu and streaming years later, but I have all the episodes because I loved it so much. And what was it about the series that inspired you to write your article?
Well, I mean, it cries out for, and I guess we're going to do that here, kind of a queer autopsy on it. But I mean, from the Susan Sarandon and the Jessica Lange, before we started, we were talking about Judy Davis. I had forgotten Kathy Bates, Stanley Tucci. I mean, the casting is terrific.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes, yes, yeah. Um, and so I mean, I had been, I think, in Denver. I'm in Colorado. I think I've been to late night, not quite midnight showings of Baby Jane. So I knew it's a movie like in gay Boys Town areas, they do screenings of. I mean, I've seen, I think, Baby Jane Halloween costumes, by queer people. So I knew the Baby Jane as a queer text. So when they made Feud, I just thought, and then it's Ryan Murphy as executive producer, and so he just sprinkles fairy dust on everything. Yeah, so it was ripe for that kind of analysis, and we can talk about it. But I mean, it's geared toward a queer audience, or it's a lot of wink wink kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I don't know if you noticed this, but at least upon my rewatching of like certain moments, there's actually it's a line that happens in the second episode when Joan is talking to Hedda Hopper. Jessica and Judy are on screen together, and Joan makes a comment about how, it's actually a good thing that your career didn't take off as an actress because you're doing such a good job with your news reporting. And Judy Davis looks at the camera and like shakes her head at this, and I'm like, okay, so this is we're being self-aware. This is so much more campy than I remembered on my first watch of it. Um, and everything. But
Yeah, and then, I mean, in the eighth episode too, with the um, fan that approaches Crawford to get the book signed, I
Oh
mentioned
my
that
God.
article, right? I mean, he's not explicitly queer, but you read him as a queer character, and he kind of cracks the code right at the end and says, "You two are survivors." You and Bette Davis, and I think Crawford says, I quoted it.
What do you know about
What do
survival?
you know about survival? Which is so
Mm,
nasty, so
like,
nasty.
damn.
it is. It's I don't get me wrong, I love this series, but that's probably one of the few moments that I'm like, I wish that they had tweaked that a little bit because I
Mhm.
know that even though Crawford obviously lived in a day and age where being queer was ostracized and it was the Stonewall riots were 1969. We hadn't reached the gay liberation movement, but I know that a lot of these divas were aware of the impact that they had on gay audiences
Mhm.
and were embracing them. Judy Garland was embracing her gay audiences and was being asked in interviews like, "Oh, do you think that there's like why do you think that so many of your audiences are gay?" And she's like, "Because they have good taste, because they love what I do." And it's like and and I know we've Christian and I have talked about this, but my sort of like crackpot theory about like why is it that queer men love divas so much? I could write a whole essay about that, a whole thesis about that. But I just think that there
All three of
is
us could.
all three of us. If we put our heads together, I think we could that'd be perfect. But there is something, it goes back to, I think, a combination of the physical aesthetic of glamour and then also just power in your own femininity. Because in a patriarchy, women are a minority. In a heteronormative society, queer people are the minority. So when you see women just fully embracing their sexuality and the power that it can be to be a woman, that power can exude through to a gay audience, I feel. And I can only imagine, like, if I had a time machine, I would love to go back and sit in a theater in 1962 and watch whatever happened to Baby Jane with a room full of people, knowing that probably there would be gay members in the audience that would be watching it and just them eating all of it up and everything. I know that it was a horror movie, but like we talked about in our review, Christian, there are some genuinely campy, hilarious moments that happen in that.
Yes, there are.
Or I mean, and we can talk about Mr. Flagg, Mr. Edwin Flagg, the piano teacher.
Oh, yes.
But a couple things. I mean, all roads lead back to Madonna for me. And I think by the 90s, right, she changes things where beyond Judy Garland, they're actively courting, cultivating a gay fan base. But as you said, in 1962, they actresses like Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, I think they are working with gay people, they're aware of it, but they are not yet to a stage in American history where they can not only say it out loud but actively encourage that kind of fan base. And then isn't there a line in Feud where Crawford says Bette Davis has a cult following and I have a fan base and there's a difference? I think she criticizes Bette Davis for saying or having like more of a cult following, which he puts down. And then I think Luke, the survival aspect is central because Feud's a lot about the patriarchy of the old studio system and these two battle axes bucking the system in some ways. You know, we're going to make a women's picture when they're told we don't make women's pictures anymore.
Yeah, especially in rewatching the pilot, just like when Alfred Molino's Robert Aldrich is trying to shop around this movie to different studios, and you have people that are literally saying, like, they're too long in the tooth, like, we want to cast younger, like Audrey Hepburn and Doris Day. Like, you could, I can't picture that existing. And it's like, and later on in the series, they recreate a real interview that Davis gave on the Jack Parr show where she talks about how she makes that crack about like those two old broads, I wouldn't give you a dime for them and everything. And while she was okay a little bit with the self-deprecating humor, Joan wasn't. She didn't because Joan always was that actress that wanted to be the star, because I think there's actually a moment in the pilot when Olivia de Havilland says that Joan Crawford was a movie star and Bette Davis was the greatest actress of all time. And I think that having that differentiation between the two, because, and not to discredit Joan Crawford as an actress, she was very talented, but she was always trying to be the glamorous one. And Betty was not afraid to be a character actress. She wasn't afraid to do her own makeup and didn't think of herself as the object of like romance or sex appeal. But Christian and I reviewed one of my favorite Bette Davis movies, and I think it's also one of our most watched on YouTube, which I'm so thankful for, is now Voyager, which is about that like full transformation, coming into your own and like escaping the clutches of an abusive household and blossoming as your authentic self. And seeing Davis in that film is like, she is the epitome of beauty and everything. And so, and I love that because I was rewatching some like press for when Feud happened back in 2017, and people were saying to Susan Sarandon, has anyone ever told you that you look like Bette Davis? And she goes, my whole career, people have been me, when are you going to play Bette Davis in something? And it's like,
she's got Bette Davis eyes.
She does.
Does.